How can you use proportional reasoning to display and interpret data in a circle graph? Think about this question during the lesson. The circle graph represents the eye color of the world population. If 60 people attend an event, how many of them would you expect to have brown eyes? How can you apply proportional reasoning to interpret the data in the circle graph? Step 1. Use the 75% to write a proportion that represents the number of people expected to have brown eyes. You can write 75% as 75 hundredths. 75 hundredths equals n divided by 60. Step 2. Solve the proportion.
Select your answer.
Multiply each side of the equation by 60 to solve. N is equal to 45. 75% is equivalent to 3/4, and 3/4 of 60 is 45. You can expect about 45 people at the event will have brown eyes. About how many of the 60 people would you expect to have blue eyes?
There are 60 people that are at the party or at this event. 15% have blue eyes. 15 over 100 represents the 15% that have blue eyes. We want to know the number of people out of the 60 that have blue eyes. We then are going to multiply both sides by 60. And so then this cancels out. We're left with n on that side. And then we have, let me just show, this would be almost like 1 over 60. So you would have, 60 over 1. And so you would have 15 times 60. Let me erase this at the top. My apologies. So you have like 60 over 1 that you're multiplying by. And so you have 15 times 60, which would give us, let me double check my math, 900. And then over 100. And then you divide that. And that will give you 9. So there are 9 total people with blue eyes.
Students were asked their favorite activity at the local community center. The results are shown in the table. How can these survey results be represented in a circle graph?
You have all of the activities here. Step 1, it shows to calculate each percent. So you take the total number of students that chose that activity and put it over the total number of students that chose. Now they got the 280 by adding up all of the students. So that's how you find out the total number of students. So they have 112 over 280. You divide it, it gives you your percent as a decimal and as a percent. And then you do the same thing for each one of the activities. Step 2, you take the percent and then you multiply it because they want to find the degrees for each section of the circle graph. So you're multiplying it by the 360 degrees, which is the diameter of a circle, and then that gives you the degrees for that section of the circle graph. So you do that for each one of the activities. And then last, you would draw a circle graph, but here is what it would look like fully drawn out with each activity. Here it wants us to complete the table and display the information in the circle graph. I'm going to focus on just completing the table. So as we did before, I explained that you first need to find the total number of students before we can do percent. So you would add all of these up together. The total number of students are 1,500, so that's the total number. And so we're going to find the percents for each field trip. So we are going to put 300 of the students that went on the aquarium, 300 over the total number of students, which is 1,500, and you're going to divide, and that's going to give you 0 and 2/10 of students, and that's going to be equal to 20%. And so for that very first field trip, we're going to have 20% as our percent. And then for the degrees, you take that 20%, and then you're going to multiply it by 360. So you keep it in that decimal form and multiply it by 360, and then you get your degrees. And for this one, it's 72. So for the art museum, you do 150 over the 1,500, and then you divide it, and you're going to get 0.1, and that's the same as 10%. And then you write that into the chart, and then you take the decimal 0.1 and multiply that by the 0.1, and then you're going to get your answer for degrees, and that is 36. So you would follow those same steps for each one. Here are the rest of the percents and the rest of the degrees following the same steps that we did before.